We will understand the structure and hazards caused by agents of disease that affect living organisms.
We will understand how biotechnology is used to affect living organisms. What kind of imagery does the word microbiology and biotechnology bring to your mind? What do you know about diseases? How is it that things we can't see with our eyes can be so harmful? A disease is a condition that prevents the body from functioning properly. Many diseases in humans are caused by microorganisms, a living thing that cannot be seen without a microscope. Also called microscopic, which means it needs to be seen with a microscope. Microbiology is the study of these organisms, which includes the study of viruses, bacteria, protozoa, and some fungi. They are single-celled organisms with animal-like behaviors. There are 4 types of microorganisms. They are viruses, bacteria, fungi, and protists. The routes of exposure are by ingestion, injection, and inhalation. Here you can see what these microorganisms look like from under the lens of a microscope. What do you notice about their shapes? What can these microorganisms do to you? Which route of exposure do you think is the easiest? Fungus, one-celled or many-celled organisms. Most that cause disease are one-celled, such as yeasts, molds, and mildew. Many-celled fungi do not usually cause diseases, such as mushrooms and shelf fungi. These cells are similar to plant and animal cells, and they have a nucleus and membranes. Here are some visual examples of fungus. Have you ever seen mushrooms growing in your yard? Ever seen moldy bread or food that's been in your refrigerator for too long and starts to turn a grayish white? Do you think all fungi are bad for us? A parasite is an organism that lives on or in another organism and benefits at the other organism's expense. It uses the tissues or fluids of the host as a food source, such as the organism on which it lives. It can weaken or sicken the host. Here you can see some examples of parasites. Roundworms can cause infections and lead to diarrhea and fever. Hookworms are intestinal, blood-feeding, parasitic roundworms. Hookworm infection is found in many parts of the world and is common in areas with poor access to adequate water, sanitation, and hygiene. Tapeworms are flat, segmented worms that live in the intestines of some animals. Animals can become infected with these parasites when grazing in pastures or drinking contaminated water. A virus can cause illness when they infect a living cell. Viruses are not living organisms, nor are they made up of cells. They do not carry out any functions of life except reproduction. Viruses must infect a living cell to reproduce. Some examples are Ebola and the flu. In this picture, we see examples of viruses. What do you notice about their shapes and structures? Bacteria are one-celled organisms that are prokaryotes. They do not have a nucleus contained in a membrane and also lack other similarities to plant and animal cells. They are grouped according to shape. Some examples are Spirillum, spiral shape, corkscrew. Bacillus, rod-shaped. Coccus, round or spherical shaped. Here we see different types of bacteria. What do you notice about their shapes? There are circular shapes and some even have tails. Do you remember what the name for the tail is called? Fungus can affect us as humans as well. Here we see a picture of ringworm. Notice the typical ring shape in the picture on the left. In the picture on the right, we see what is called athlete's foot, which is also a fungus as well. There are also diseases caused by parasites. In the example here, we have a parasite called toxocariasis. Each year in the United States at least 70 people are blinded by the parasite that causes toxocariasis. Most of them are children. Most parasites do not kill their host. If they did, they would lose the benefits of the host. They use the host for nourishment, food. This sickens the host. How do bacteria cause disease? Bacteria cause disease by secreting or excreting toxins, as in botulism, by producing toxins internally, which are released when the bacteria disintegrate, as in typhoid, or by inducing sensitivity to their antigenic properties, as in tuberculosis. What is the process for a bacterial infection? It starts off with the incubation period, and the length of time can vary. Then the onset of illness occurs. The prodromal phase refers to the period after incubation and before the symptoms of infection show up. People can transmit infections during this state. The infectious agent keeps replicating, which triggers the body's immune response and mild, nonspecific symptoms. Then we move on to the period of invasion, and that time period varies. Finally, we move into the convalescent period, which is when we start to recover and feel better. Now we are going to learn about 7 diseases caused by bacteria. They are flesh-eating disease, staph infections, meningitis, pneumonia, tuberculosis, cholera, and dysentery. Flesh-eating disease. It is a very severe bacterial infection that spreads quickly through the tissue surrounding the muscles. In some cases, death can occur within 12 to 24 hours. Staph infections are caused by Staphylococcus bacteria, types of germs commonly found on the skin or in the nose of even healthy individuals. Most of the time, these bacteria cause no problems or result in relatively minor skin infections. Meningitis is an inflammation, swelling, of the protective membranes covering the brain and spinal cord. A bacterial or viral infection of the fluid surrounding the brain and spinal cord usually causes swelling. However, injuries, cancer, certain drugs, and other types of infections also can cause meningitis. Pneumonia is an infection of one or both of the lungs caused by bacteria, viruses, or fungi. It is a serious infection in which the air sacs fill with pus and other liquid. Tuberculosis, TB, is a potentially serious infectious disease that mainly affects the lungs. The bacteria that cause tuberculosis are spread from person to person through tiny droplets released into the air via coughs and sneezes. Cholera is an acute diarrheal illness caused by infection of the intestine with Vibrio cholera bacteria. People can get sick when they swallow food or water contaminated with cholera bacteria. The infection is often mild or without symptoms, but can sometimes be severe and life-threatening. Once inside the body, they replicate themselves quickly. To repeat, duplicate, or reproduce. They can act as parasites once inside the body by using nutrients. Most cause disease-producing poisons that disrupt normal cell functions. Examples include cholera, salmonella, pneumonia, and typhoid fever. Many diseases caused by bacteria have been brought under control through the use of antibiotics, drugs that kill bacteria or slow their growth. Over time, some bacteria have become resistant to treatment with antibiotics. Immune to change. This is because bacteria and many pathogens can mutate over time, which means they can alter or change their genetic makeup so that modern medicines no longer work on them. A virus is a submicroscopic infectious agent that replicates only inside the living cells of an organism. Viruses infect all life forms, from animals and plants to microorganisms, including bacteria and archaea. Viruses are not living. Some examples of diseases they cause are smallpox, chickenpox, measles, AIDS, Zika, and the flu, influenza. To reproduce, they infect a host cell, deposit genetic material, create a new virus, then burst out of the cell, killing the cell and starting the process over. They often produce aches and fevers, and antibiotics do not work to destroy them. Scientists are working on antiviral substances, drugs that slow down the rate at which the virus reproduces. We have learned about microbiology and how to identify those microscopic components that can affect our everyday lives. In the next segment, we will explore keeping people healthy. I am going to head back to the lab to check on our researchers and their progress on our samples.